The National Weather Service has issued simultaneous winter storm watches and severe weather outlooks across more than a dozen states. Within the next 72 hours, the Sierra Nevada faces up to 8 feet of snow, with ridge winds exceeding 100 miles per hour. At the same time, 23 million Americans from Texas to Florida sit under tornado warnings, with the Storm Prediction Center flagging the possibility of strong tornadoes across the southeast. And in South Louisiana, a $300 million crawfish industry is already reeling from January's historic Arctic blast. By the end of this report, you will understand exactly how 3 separate weather disasters collided during a single Valentine's Day weekend, why infrastructure in the mountains buckled under ice that has not been seen in decades, and what happened to families caught in the path of storms that arrived while most people were asleep. Some say when nature strikes on this many fronts at once, it is more than coincidence. The data, however, speaks for itself. What comes next is critical. 8 feet of snow, 100-mile-per-hour ridge gusts, tornadoes forming after midnight, a chairlift tower bent in half by the sheer weight of ice. This is not one storm. This is 3 converging disasters stretching from the California mountains to the Florida coastline in a single weekend. Quick thing before we go further. Drop your city or state in the comments so we can keep each other updated. If you are in one of these affected areas, let folks know what it looks like outside your window right now. That way, everyone watching gets real-time updates from people on the ground. According to the National Weather Service, winter storm watches blanket California and Nevada, with snowfall totals measured in feet and travel conditions described as very difficult to impossible. Across the southern plains and southeast, a slight risk of severe weather covers areas from Houston to Jacksonville, with embedded tornadoes expected from Saturday evening through Sunday afternoon. This is not a routine winter system paired with a few thunderstorms. It is a multi-front assault on infrastructure, agriculture, and human safety from coast to coast. But this was only the beginning. What happened over the next 48 hours would test communities in ways nobody anticipated. This is the anatomy of a weekend that attacked from 3 directions at once. Along the west coast, a powerful atmospheric river is feeding moisture into the Sierra Nevada mountain range. According to the National Weather Service out of Hanford, California, the central and southern Sierra could see 3 to 5 feet of snow above 6,000 feet, with 5 to 7 feet on the highest peaks. Wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour threaten to create blowing snow, fallen trees, and extended road closures. Now, here is a term worth understanding. An atmospheric river is essentially a long, narrow corridor of moisture in the sky, sometimes stretching over 1,000 miles. When it slams into a mountain range, all that moisture gets forced upward and dumps out as heavy snow or rain. The safety takeaway is simple. If forecasters mention an atmospheric river heading your way, treat it like a flood warning for the mountains and prepare for road closures, power outages, and dangerous travel conditions. Meanwhile, more than 1,000 miles to the east, a cold front sweeping across Texas is colliding with warm, moisture-rich Gulf air. That collision is producing a line of thunderstorms capable of damaging winds near 60 to 65 miles per hour and quarter-sized hail. Where that cold front meets extreme wind shear, the atmosphere becomes a factory for tornadoes, and the shear values were climbing fast. But why did the Sierra Nevada suffer structural damage when winter storms happen there every year? And why were tornado warnings issued for areas that were supposed to be asleep? The answers would become painfully clear. What comes next is critical. By Saturday morning, the storm's blueprint was already visible on radar. Across the Dallas-Fort Worth area and back towards Waco, a large cluster of thunderstorms was producing heavy rain. According to the National Weather Service Houston-Galveston office, scattered to widespread showers and thunderstorms were expected throughout the day, with isolated strong to severe storms possible in the afternoon and evening. Damaging winds and small hail were the main hazards. Meteorologist Matt Lanza at Space City Weather noted 2 waves of storms approaching Houston. a milder round in the mid to late afternoon, then a stronger system between 6 and 10 in the evening. 2 inches of rain in isolated spots, quarter-inch totals elsewhere. For couples heading out for Valentine's Day dinner, the timing could not have been worse. Now, you might hear forecasters throw around the term wind shear. Here is what that actually means and why it matters for your safety. Wind shear is when winds at different levels of the atmosphere blow at different speeds or in different directions. When that difference is large, it can tilt a thunderstorm and turn it into a rotating supercell, which is the kind of storm that produces the most violent tornadoes. The safety solution is straightforward. When wind shear values are high and you are under a tornado watch, do not wait for a warning. Have your shelter plan ready and keep your phone charged with weather alerts turned on. After 5 in the evening, the tornado threat ramped up sharply. According to the Storm Prediction Center, the highest tornado probability stretched from Houston back into eastern Louisiana near Baton Rouge. The significant tornado parameter values were climbing. A line of thunderstorms embedded with possible tornadoes was barreling toward Lake Charles and then into Mississippi and Alabama. Here is the important part. These storms were arriving during overnight hours when most residents were asleep. By bedtime, the line extended from southern Arkansas through Louisiana, with the greatest tornado potential centered on the corridor between New Orleans and Jackson, Mississippi. According to forecasters, the tornado risk was not high, but the randomness of embedded tornadoes in a nighttime squall line is what makes them so deadly. You cannot see what you cannot hear coming. Nobody realized yet that by Sunday morning, the storm would reload. Don't miss the next part. What happened when the line reached the southeast would change everything. For families across southeastern Alabama and the Florida Panhandle, Sunday morning did not feel like a silver lining. The National Weather Service office covering Dothan, Alabama, predicted storms moving through between 8 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon Central Time. Southwestern Georgia and the Florida Big Bend faced the same system from 11 in the morning to 6 in the evening Eastern Time. Damaging wind gusts were the primary concern, with winds potentially reaching 35 miles per hour or higher ahead of the storms, and meteorologists could not rule out a tornado or 2 embedded within the squall line. Remember those 23 million Americans under tornado threat from Section 1? For families in the path from Jacksonville, Florida, to the Big Bend region, those numbers were not abstract. They were the sound of tornado sirens while trying to get children to safety. Some spent the overnight hours in interior rooms, phones clutched in hand, listening for alerts that could arrive with only minutes of lead time. Even residents accustomed to southern thunderstorms said this weekend felt different. The storm was not a single punch. It was a rolling barrage that kept reloading from Saturday evening through Sunday afternoon. Meanwhile, 2,000 miles to the west, the Sierra Nevada was enduring its own crisis. At the ski resort in the Sierra Nevada mountains, the Laguna Chairlift suffered structural damage when one of its support towers was bent under the weight of accumulated ice. Engineers confirmed the damage was severe enough to close the lift for the remainder of the ski season. Dozens of additional lift towers were impacted across the resort, with ice accumulating on cables and mechanical parts, forcing emergency closures across multiple zones. Resort workers labored around the clock to clear ice and restore safe operations. Locals said conditions like this had not been seen in decades. Off-piste areas remained dangerous with unstable snow, hidden ice, and poor visibility. And in South Louisiana, crawfish farmers were staring at empty traps. The $300 million industry was still recovering from last January's historic Arctic blast, which brought record snowfall and the first blizzard warnings ever issued in parts of the state. Now, another round of freezing temperatures was shutting down production again. For the more than 1,000 commercial fishermen and 1,300 farmers who supply roughly 100 to 120 million pounds of crawfish per year, every cold day means lost income during the most important harvest window of the season. For all of these communities, the question was the same: when does it end? Across the western mountains, this storm left a heavy mark on daily life and transportation. The National Weather Service warned that travel on Interstate 80 and Highway 50 could become very difficult to impossible. Chain controls and road closures were expected across major Sierra routes. In the greater Lake Tahoe area, snowfall of 18 to 30 inches was forecast in the basin, with 2 to 5 feet in the surrounding Sierra. Valley winds gusted 35 to 45 miles per hour, while ridge gusts exceeded 100 miles per hour, creating prolonged whiteout conditions. The NWS warned travel may be impossible at times, and that strong winds could damage trees and power lines. In Mono County, forecasters expected 15 to 30 inches west of Highway 395, with 2 to 4 feet in the High Sierra. Sierra Ridge gusts over 100 miles per hour, raised the risk of whiteout conditions and prolonged travel shutdowns. Now here is another term worth knowing. A whiteout is when blowing snow reduces visibility to near zero. You literally cannot tell the difference between the ground and the sky. The safety solution is blunt. Do not drive in whiteout conditions. No appointment, no trip, no destination is worth it. If you are caught in one, pull completely off the road, turn on your hazard lights, and stay in your vehicle until visibility improves. In the southeast, a small craft advisory was in effect for the northeastern Gulf from Sunday into Monday morning. A high risk of rip currents was expected at area beaches Sunday and Monday. Schools, courts, and government services across affected counties faced disruption. The economic ripple effect extended well beyond the immediate storm damage. In Louisiana, a 30-pound sack of pond-raised crawfish, typically $80 to $100 this time of year, was expected to climb as fewer catches reached local markets. With Mardi Gras and the Super Bowl driving peak demand, the timing of these freezes could not have been worse. According to Dr. Greg Lutz of the LSU Agricultural Center, crawfish simply shut down their entire metabolism when water temperatures drop. Farmers cannot justify the fuel and labor costs to run traps when catches drop to nearly nothing. But can you really put a price on an industry that defines a culture? Across the affected regions, emergency management teams became the backbone of the response. In the Sierra Nevada, resort workers and technicians worked around the clock to clear ice, inspect equipment, and restore safe operations where possible. A partial reopening was announced in the Borreguilas and Rio zones, but officials warned that access could change at short notice depending on weather and safety checks. The National Weather Service issued an unusually direct advisory for the Sierra region, stating that persons should consider delaying all travel. For those who must travel, the guidance was to drive with extreme caution and carry a winter storm kit, including tire chains, booster cables, flashlight, shovel, blankets, extra clothing, water, and a first aid kit. In southeast Alabama, emergency officials urged residents to review severe weather safety plans before Sunday. The guidance was clear. Know where you will go if a warning is issued. Stay weather aware with phones nearby for alerts. During storms, move away from windows and shelter in an interior room on the lowest floor. After the storms, check on neighbors and report damage to local authorities. Much of the response focused on prevention rather than reaction. Forecasters gave multiple days of lead time for the Sierra winter storm and several hours of advance warning for the severe weather in the southeast. The question is whether communities used that lead time effectively. How many people actually had a tornado plan at 2 in the morning? How many Sierra travelers checked conditions before heading into the mountains? Could faster individual preparation have prevented some of the damage and danger? For those still in the path of these systems, the message from every agency was the same: do not underestimate what is coming. As these storms slowly move out, the affected regions are left with difficult questions about preparedness, infrastructure resilience, and what the future holds. Experts have stressed that the combination of an atmospheric river hammering the Sierra while a separate severe weather outbreak rolled across the southern United States is not unprecedented. But it is the kind of compound event that stretches emergency resources thin. When 2 or 3 major weather systems overlap, no single region gets the full attention and resources it deserves. When atmospheric rivers collide with mountain ranges, when warm Gulf moisture meets cold fronts and extreme wind shear, and when prolonged freezes hit agricultural regions during peak production windows, the result is not just inconvenience, it is systemic crisis. And climate data suggests these patterns are intensifying. The Sierra Nevada resort that lost its chairlift to ice accumulation serves as a warning. Infrastructure built for typical winter conditions is now buckling under events that exceed historical norms. Locals said they had not seen conditions like this in decades. That phrase keeps appearing in disaster after disaster across region after region. For the crawfish industry, the lesson is equally stark. Dr. Christopher Bonvillain at Nicholls State University warned that 2 straight weeks of below-freezing temperatures would mean serious trouble. The industry depends on nature's calendar, and when that calendar shifts, the economic consequences ripple from farmer to consumer. The real test will be whether these lessons produce concrete changes in infrastructure standards, emergency communication, and agricultural resilience planning before the next compound event arrives. History suggests they may not. In a single Valentine's Day weekend, 3 weather disasters collided across the United States. 8 feet of snow and 100-mile-per-hour gusts battered the Sierra Nevada, bending chairlift towers and shutting down mountain travel. 23 million Americans faced tornado threats from Texas to Florida, with storms arriving during overnight hours when most people were asleep. And Louisiana's $300 million crawfish industry suffered another blow from freezing temperatures during its most critical harvest window. Winter storm watches, severe weather outlooks, agricultural losses, infrastructure failures. Here is the important part. This weekend is a warning about what happens when multiple extreme weather events hit simultaneously, and communities are forced to respond on every front at once. The choices that officials and communities make now about infrastructure hardening, overnight warning systems, and agricultural support will decide how the next compound disaster plays out. If you want to stay informed about extreme weather and how communities across America are facing these new realities, subscribe, share this report, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next update. Now tell us in the comments, were you in the path of any of these storms this weekend? What did conditions actually look like on the ground where you are? And do you feel your community was prepared?